Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, Shinrin Yoku, and Yurt Life, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Monday, January 15th, around 9 p.m. Mountain Time 2024. There has been some uptick at Grimsvötn and Bartabunga, and we're keeping a close eye on that as the Reykjanes Peninsula eruption near Grindavik has come to a close. Thankfully, only 3 homes lost. But the big story, Donald Trump wins the Iowa Republican caucus by a huge margin. Keep calm. It's boom time. Arctic blast continues to sweep the entire U.S., setting record low temperatures. Sub-zero wind chills grip a swath of the country as Arctic storms leave at least 4 dead and knock out electricity in parts of the Northwest. Can you believe this? Dangerous freezing air from the Arctic continued to sweep the nation. And, well, I thought we were in a global warming world. What say you? On Monday, prolonged and bitter cold blast that has set record low temperatures and disrupted daily life across a broad swath of America, including an NFL playoff game and the presidential nominating contest in Iowa. Whew. See how much snow fell in Buffalo so far? Well, the lake effect snowstorm that forced the postponement of the Buffalo Bills playoff game, originally scheduled for Sunday, has dropped nearly 4 feet of snow in western New York. And it's not done yet, folks. Extreme Colorado weather makes travel hazardous, including an avalanche, many avalanches. Several roads closed in Colorado on Monday, including I-70 near Vail and I-25 near Dacono. Who knew? Now you do.
First alert weather day. Berthoud Pass is shut down because of an avalanche which trapped several cars. The avalanche threat for Berthoud Pass, like much of Colorado, has been high this weekend as the high country deals with heavy snowfall and powerful winds. Jasmine Aranis is on top of our breaking news for us tonight. And Jasmine, you just got off the phone with CDOT not long ago.
Yes, Kelly, and the good news is no one was hurt, according to CDOT, and everyone was able to get out okay. But now avalanche mitigation efforts have begun. According to CDOT, at least 10 cars were caught in the avalanche along Berthoud Pass this morning. Go ahead and look at this new video from Grand County. It shows a deputy riding over Berthoud Pass completely covered in snow. First alert meteorologist Ashton Alturi says Berthoud Pass could see another 10 to 20 inches of snow with winds up to 60 miles per hour. CDOT will be conducting avalanche mitigation throughout the state through Tuesday.
We go in where the avalanche danger is high and we have known slide paths that can hit the highway. And we close the highway to any traffic. Our crews go in there and they trigger the avalanches. They clear any snow that comes down onto the highway. And then we can safely open up the highway again to travelers.
Now, if the worst were to happen and you became trapped in an avalanche on the road, here's what you need to know. Stay in your car. There could be another slide, and being outside your car puts you in danger. Turn off your engine to avoid the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning, and try to report the avalanche from inside your car. Now, anyone who travels through the high country is also advised to always keep emergency supplies in their car. That includes water, snacks, extra clothes, and blankets. Officials have not confirmed when the road will reopen, but warn travelers to stay alert through CDOT's CoTrips app or cotrips.org. The avalanche danger is high through Tuesday, Kelly.
These diversity hires certainly make the weather forecast more interesting, albeit maybe a less more effective. Now, in our region, Wolf Creek ski area sees another 15 inches from the latest storm, bringing our totals up 165 inches for the year, and that means good news for the western basins. When just a week ago we had less than 5 basins in the west at or near normal, we now have dozens of basins throughout the west that are approaching or above normal, and now we have reached over 26 basins at normal or above. Good news, and this is only going to increase as we move in to the center of winter. Portland area residents take a wait and freeze approach to power outages because they believe in the global warming goodness. Earlier today, 100,000 people were without power in Oregon, And let's refresh this to the current stats. That hasn't gotten much better. Take a look at that. 66,000 without power in Oregon. Texas, the nexus of the Schmexus, 15,000 customers without power. Good news on the power front. Thousands of flights disrupted as brutally cold temps grip the U.S. More is coming, and there are live updates in the link below, which will be linked below, as well as all of the topics we talked about. Now, thank God the cold is definitely not what it used to be. In fact, winter is much warmer than 1970. The only problem is that there have been 380 record cold temperatures in the U.S. in the last 24 hours. And the current weather position here, the temperature in Minneapolis that they're claiming is warmer than the 1970s, is the same exact temperature as it was in 1973. In fact, a little colder. So I have no idea what they're talking about. It's just, well, it's all a show, folks. Arctic air across most of the country. Winter storm for the southern plains into the mid-Atlantic. Dangerous cold temperatures continue across much of the U.S., with new records expected to be tied or broken. Meanwhile, snow and freezing rain continue over the southern U.S. today, spreading into the mid-Atlantic and northeast through Tuesday. Downwind, the Great Lakes, heavy lake effect snow continues with significant travel impacts, and we may be seeing the first snow for Philly and New York. Buckle up, Buttercup. Here are the cold temperature records that are being broken. Here is the current position, and it's looking like minus 16 for this evening for Iowa. Holy macaroni. And that's the highest temperature in the state. Let's move it through. You can see this cold plume is going to stay through Tuesday into Wednesday. It's going to moderate a bit, but extreme cold temperatures will be in the south by Wednesday. We're talking dangerous cold all the way to the coast, and freeze warning and watches up for many people. Let's take a look at the snowfall totals, and that missing snow in the northeast that has been elusive is going to be falling overnight. Tonight into Tuesday morning, we will be seeing heavy snow in Philadelphia, maybe New York City, but mostly for the north and west suburbs of Philly. This has been a drought that's been happening for 2 years, but they are certainly going to get some of that global warming goodness. Now, bad news, the second system is moving right over that area later this week, Friday into Saturday into the weekend. Is going to bring more snow to the snow drought area. And it looks like if we move these patterns into the future, we could be seeing some wintry precipitation all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. Holy macaroni. Seismic update. We have a few quakes of note, including a 5.4 in Kumakan, Russia, at a depth of 10 kilometers. That activity is over. We have also a 4.4, 40 kilometers south of San Clemente at a 5.9 kilometer depth. That one is raising some eyebrows on the west coast offshore there. Could be due to Cascadia involvement or San Andreas movement. Either way, it is a strange outlier offshore of the coast in Southern California. Overall, looking at the map, it is moderate amount of seismic activity. No quakes of note. A small cluster here in San Pedro in Chile. At a depth of about 100 kilometers, we may see a larger earthquake up at the surface here in the next 24 hours. Hours of powers. Now, the president in Iceland says that he's facing daunting period after lava from the volcano destroys homes in the fishing town of Grindavik. The good news is that that fissure that it emanated yesterday, just 24 hours ago, has stopped in less than 24 hours, and only 3 homes were destroyed, one of them new construction. That's the good news coming out from Grindavik, but the race is on to bring hot water back into the town, as it will freeze all the pipes and create more devastation. The devastation has already occurred during the emplacement of this now cooled lava, where there was actually a volcano right here, right on the footsteps of the town, that has now shut down. Well, Without the hot water, all of the pipes will freeze in the town of Iceland. So that has been their main focus, getting hot water running through those pipes. As the main fissure, the southern fissure, which is not the main fissure, the smaller fissure, which was the main concerning fissure, which had burned 3 homes here, has come to a close, and there's almost no activity on the ridge. But there have been several video overflights across the eruption site today, and the best coming from none other than Isaac Finnbogason, which we should all go over there, subscribe to the channel, give him a thumbs up, tell him Diamond sent you, and take a look at this footage earlier today. Now, what I want to show you here, before we go any further, is the scale of this eruption. In less than 16 hours, let's go back a little. All right, Isaac. In less than 16 hours, the amount of lava that was in place over this region is absolutely insane. Take a look at this. These are very fast-moving lava flows. The good news is that this barrier here to the north kept the major flow away from the town. And the other night, crews were... See how there's a small breach here? Yeah, well, we're not getting that there on the lava flow. Let's move this forward. There's a small breach in that barrier right here. And you can see all night crews were building this secondary lava barrier. Absolute heroes in those huge haul packs that were moving this dirt into place here. But they didn't need to, because everything has quieted down. Just a small activity in the northern part of the fissure here continues now. But it looks like as if all of the activity has come to a close. Here we are at the Reykjanes multi-view live stream, and there is no active volcanic activity anywhere near Grindavik. Good news. Seismicity has dropped off, and I'm sure a lot of people are exhaling for good measure. The town of Grindavik seems to have been saved, but this eruption is still ongoing, which means that nobody knows what will happen next. Seismicity is still continuing. There's still activity on the Reykjanes Ridge. Let's refresh this. Anyone knows what the second phase is, but the bad news is that uplift from this emplacement of magma has moved some of the ground in the town of Grindavik up and down 3 meters. That's almost 10 feet. And they won't know till tomorrow what the actual effects are, but we'll certainly bring you those updates as they come. Here we are over at the Vatnajökull, a portion of Iceland that typically erupts the same time the Reykjanes Peninsula erupts, and we've got Bardarbunga as well as Grimsvötn active tonight. Bad news, because these volcanoes can result in VEI 3, 4, or 5 eruptions, which can affect the Earth as a whole or greater, including the eruption of Laki, which actually changed the temperature of the Earth. So Grimsvötn currently active, alert level at 3 in yellow here, Reykjanes at 4, currently erupting, and Bardarbunga still at green. So we're keeping a close eye on that, as the tremor has dropped off in Grindavik and is now rising once again. So maybe a secondary eruption is coming in the next few hours. Worldwide volcano news update: no other quakes of note worldwide, and no other volcanic eruptions worthy of report. Space weather news update. According to many top solar scientists, the activity in the region of the sun has been increasing over the last 2 days, including Tametheskov. Completely lost the mark on that one. There is no activity on the sun. It is acting as a solar minimum sun. Anyone that's claiming the sun is active is a complete charlatan and making shit up, period. Ben Davidson even commented today on, well, I won't even get to that, but he is also another one of those people that are full of it. The doomed U.S. moonlander is on a collision course with Earth and will be destroyed to protect other satellites. Astrobiotics, the company that's lunar lander, well, developed some problems during the landing phase will in fact burn up in the Earth's atmosphere when it comes back to our planet. The spacecraft mission to the moon was scuppered shortly after the launch due to a fuel tank leak. That's what they say, but what you should glean from this is we still can't get to the moon. Now, an old relative of T-Rex sparks new questions about the dinosaur's origin. For years, these smaller T-Rexes were determined to be juveniles, but in a new study, they're determined to be a new species, and for good measure. They're much older than the bigger T-Rexes. Here is a rendering of Tyrannosaurus macraeus, a newly identified relative of T-Rex, a partial skull on view at the New Mexico Museum of Natural History and Science was key in the discovery. Now, researchers say, they have identified a new species of tyrannosaur that traces the dino's lineage to North America much earlier than previously thought. Now, most people don't know that the Mesozoic, the time of the dinosaurs, lasted for as long as it did, hundreds of millions of years. And during that time, dinosaurs existed the entire time. The only problem is that Jurassic Park is nonsense because the large dinosaurs were in the Cretaceous, not in the Jurassic. So therein lies the problem. Now, coal miners in North Dakota have unearthed a mammoth tusk buried for thousands of years. And it's fantastic. Take a look. In this image provided by Coleman Fredericks, coal miners unearthed a mammoth tusk in May 2023 at the Freedom Mine near Ballula, North Dakota. The North Dakota Geologic Society subsequently visited the mine and dug for more bones at the site, finding more than 20 mammoth bones, now wrapped in plastic for the protection as paleontologists work to preserve them. The dating is subjective, and they date these bones between 10 and 100,000 years old, which makes sense because, well, that's how old they are. Ancient Egyptian healthcare was advanced and successful, according to the experts. So successful that they didn't actually feed the population genetically modified organisms or pollute them with vaccines or other poisons that made them die early. So there is the good news coming from that study. Stargazers will have 2 chances to see rare comets in 2024. It's not going to be a bore. The comet 12P Pons-Brooks is on record for centuries, and the comet Tushishan Atlas, newly discovered in 2023, are predicted to appear this spring and fall when they could become so bright they may be visible to the naked eye. And that doesn't mean that you're naked. It just means you can open your eyes and see. Now, let's talk about Comet Pons-Brooks. This periodic comet, which flies past our solar system every 71 years, will make its next close approach to our sun this spring. Ding, ding. So anything can happen there, especially because we're at solar max, and any solar storm coming at the comet may, well, turn it on. It may be electric. So stay tuned for booms from Comet Pons-Brooks coming in the spring. Ding, ding. September through October in the fall of 2024, Comet Tushishan Atlas, discovered just a year ago in January 2023. This celestial visitor has the potential to become a naked eye object for the North American viewers because A, we're at solar max, and a huge solar storm could electrify this baby. So 2 big candidates for electrification coming soon, which means we could have cometary booms in 2024. Now, some interesting updates coming out from the ancient footprints from white sands in the desert of New Mexico. The Pleistocene footprints are younger than thought, but not that much younger. The radiocarbon correction for rupia seeds associated with the prints in the Tularosa Basin of New Mexico have potentially dated these prints 7,500 years younger. So instead of 23,000 years old, they could be from 13 to 15,000 years ago, which doesn't mean much. They're still very old footprints. What does mean much is if you're trying to grow food as the empire collapses. You need to know about the Prean Period. It's a period from the fall to the spring where light levels in some mid-latitudes, like where we live at 40 degrees north, become less than 10 hours a day. That means the photoperiod of the sun rising and setting is less than 10 hours. We here in Pagosa Springs are still in the Prean, and it will end maybe in 7 to 10 days where we finally get above 10 hours of light. But it's important because plants do not grow in this period. The Prean period only occurs in northern latitudes or southern latitudes away from the equator. 35 degrees and north of those latitudes will receive less than 10 hours of sunlight during the winter periods. And during these periods, plants don't grow. They go into stasis. They just sit there. They're alive, but they don't produce. So if you want winter crop production at your homestead, you need to plant plants 2 months prior to the Prean, and that during all of winter, when that light level goes below 10 hours, you'll still be able to harvest from the plants, but they won't be growing anything. You'll just be eating from plants that are alive. And that also means that if you want to plant in the spring in your greenhouse, there is no reason to put seeds in the ground unless there is more than 10 hours of sunlight per day, which usually 40 degrees north where we are, that's about February 1st. So that's when you want to put the seeds in the greenhouse or in the ground. And now you've been told on how to survive and thrive in the coming times. And that's a boom to knowledge. Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Please smash the thumbs up, become a Patreon, support all the work we do. In one place, over at Patreon, you can listen to all of our podcasts commercial free. Be safe. We love you. And that's a boom.